Hey, it's the Nerdy Sports Fan, and it's the time of year everybody thinks about for months on end, the beginning of fantasy football season. That's right. Real, live games are only weeks away. You got to get your strategy ready for the draft, which, if you're not either crazy or stupid, is happening after the third preseason game. But, some of you are, so I got to get these videos out early. So, we're starting things off with this season's tight end top 10 preseason fantasy football rankings. Now, some of these guys have changed in value, and we don't have the Gronk anymore, so you really got to pay attention. In the past, I've actually drafted Rob Gronkowski number 1 overall. Now, this is a strategy people think is absolutely crazy. Guess what? I won my league that year in dominating fashion. It's because what matters with your first round pick isn't necessarily what position you're getting. What matters is how much better is the player you're getting than the next guy. So, that particular year, the top of every other position was jumbled. Gronk had a clear advantage over everybody else. He was putting up running back numbers some weeks, wide receiver numbers every other week. Compared to every other tight end, it was no question. So, tight end is a position you really need to pay attention to. And this season, there's 3 elite, 2 to 3 more very good. Everybody else is an also-ran. So let's dig right into it. My number 1 tight end this season is Travis Kelce. The reasons should be obvious. So they lost Kareem Hunt. He was a better receiving target out of the backfield than his replacements. Wide receiving talent has been relatively inconsistent with some injuries. We saw that happen at the end of the season last year. Kansas City's tight end has been the go-to guy for that offense for very good reason. He's always there, and he's head and shoulders above almost everybody else at his position. He's a matchup nightmare, and the offense is really, really geared towards his talents. He's going to get a lot of red zone targets. He's going to get a lot of targets in general. And Pat Mahomes is instant offense. That guy is going to turn everybody around him into a much, much better fantasy option than they typically would have been. So, he's a clear-cut number 1 tight end, and in my mind, an obvious first-round choice. Next on the list, we have Zach Ertz out of Philly. Now, some of you may think I have him ranked a little high here. I think you're high, okay? This is obvious. The offense is very up-tempo. Mr. Doug Peterson is bringing the same kind of offense that Andy Reid has. Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, obvious, okay? Carson Wentz will be better this year. That's just the way things work in the NFL. He already showed us that he has the talent to bring a team to the playoffs. He is lights out. He just has to stay healthy. And the Eagles will do everything they can to keep him healthy. They showed that by getting Howard. Howard is a superior running back to anybody they had last season, which is going to slow down pass rushes. Not to mention, he's actually very good in pass protection, which is very much overlooked in his skill set. He will punch people up the middle of the field and slow down the pass rush and weaken the defense later in games. Zach Ertz is the safety blanket. So, yeah, he's really the only consistent target in that offense. I understand they have Alshon Jeffries and Nelson Aguilar, but it doesn't matter. Zach Ertz is the go-to guy of this offense, and it should have been obvious last season. It will by week 2 or 3 this season. snag him no later than the 3rd round. Please, no later. He will be gone by then. Next on the list, number 3, George Kittle. Now, this is the first player on this list that isn't based off of the system he works on. It's primarily because he is an absolutely elite talent. George Kittle is pound for pound the most talented tight end in the league, bar none. He's better than Kelsey. He's better than Ertz. Okay? The reason he is not higher up on this list is because we're not talking about actual football. We're talking about fantasy football. Okay? This guy is not going to get the point production those other two are going to get, primarily because of the offense that he runs in. But secondarily, think of how many people got injured last year. And think of how inconsistent that made the offense. Now, yes, he's still shown through. Okay? He was still the number 2 point producing tight end. And he, I think, broke single game records. I mean, the guy is nasty. But without having a consistent presence at quarterback that we know we can bank on, without having a running back that, again, we know we can bank on, this offense is George Kittle left, George Kittle right, George Kittle middle. I mean, everybody knows where the ball is going. So they can formulate a defense to stop him and dare anybody else on the team to actually do something. Now, because he's such a matchup nightmare, he's still going to break through and get big games. But until the rest of that team shows some sort of consistent pop, all defenses are going to key in on him, holding his numbers down. So, next on the list, we have number 4, Eric Ebron. He almost came out of nowhere last season. I mean, the Colts got a real gem here. You're starting to see why Detroit drafted him in the 1st round in the first place. Detroit obviously didn't know what to do with him, or maybe it was just Matt Stafford who didn't know what to do with him. Once he moved to a team that knew how to use him, he blew up. Now, he wasn't a target monster. Okay, earlier in the season, when they had Doyle healthy, Doyle actually got more targets than Ebron. But when they got to the red zone, Ebron was the go-to guy. He was the man who could post up. Okay, I get it, a basketball term, but he just could out-physical somebody jumping for that ball. He has fantastic leaping ability, he has extremely strong hands, and he's got some basketball talent to be able to position himself in front of DBs and linebackers, or even behind them sometimes, in a way where he is going to be the only person who has a chance to get that ball. And Andrew Luck is not dumb. Okay, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he knows how to put it into a spot where only Ebron can get it. And he brought it down very, very consistently. Now, considering Doyle's injury last year is the only reason that Ebron was getting as many targets as he was late in the season, you do have to consider that in this situation. If Doyle comes back healthy, and that might, at the beginning of the season, at the very